Hi everyone, thanks so much for being here. My name is Kat and I make houseplant videos here on Good and Planty. If you just want to absolutely love this video, please consider liking it, commenting, subscribing, or following me on Instagram. All of these things help me grow my channel like a plant. The bandana is back. Kind of feeling it today. And also apologies for not uploading on Tuesday. I didn't have coffee, so my whole world got turned upside down. But today we are back and I have a very exciting video planned. I am going to list out my entire Hoya collection. Hoya is a very diverse genus with a ton of species and varieties in it. I did a Hoya collection video a month ago and I had 7 varieties. From then until now, I grew to I think I have about 20 varieties here today. And that is a huge thank you to all of you that have sent me Hoya once I got excited about them. This video was requested. I have talked a lot about these plants before, but you can now see my entire Hoya collection in its entirety. The first Hoya I'll talk about is this bad boy right behind me. And this, actually brought her down for you guys this time, is the Hoya carnosa crimson princess. Very similar to the crimson queen, but the variegation on these is on the inside, whereas with the queen it is on the outside. She gets a lot of light. She is upstairs by my rooftop, so it's fairly direct. You can see that more if I rotate her. I have a very exciting surprise. I have very bright pink stems, bright pink leaves that is coming from the sun stress, and check this out. Look at that. So if you're new to Hoya, this is going to be a bunch of flowers soon. They're going to bloom. And I found this today. I was bringing this plant down and I was freaking out. I texted my friends immediately. They are going to get constant updates about this. My Hoya don't flower all that often because I kind of take advantage of the fact that they can withstand lower light conditions, but I've noticed that the Hoya I do put in pretty strong light have been the ones that flowered, and I was waiting for this one to flower since she is fairly mature. She's on this little stake that I'm encouraging her to kind of twine up, and she's loving it. Hoya flowers don't get old to me. It doesn't matter what Hoya it is. Very pumped about that one, and she's gonna be our little Hoya model. Ooh, in the back today. Next, let's talk about Hoya Sunrise, and I actually have 2 today. So I have one in this cashpo here, and I have this one as well. So these are the 2 Hoya Sunrise in my collection. I will be potting them up together eventually. I just honestly have not had the time to repot this summer, which is a little disappointing. Kind of want a fuller sunrise, and the reason they are called the sunrise is because if you sun stress them, they get these gorgeous pink, orangey, reddish tones in their leaves, and it mimics the color of a sunrise. So they are very beautiful. I love them so much. So that is what we have going on here. This one's a cool one. We have the Hoya Jennifer. I've had this plant for a little minute now. I love the size of these leaves. They're very mature. I love the venation, and you can really see it as the sun shines through. It's giving me a little bit, I have a Hoya very similar to this one that will be coming up later. I find this one to be really cool. I didn't know it existed until it was sent to me. I've just been really enjoying these mature, very thick, waxy leaves with that hint of venation. And I have this tendril is starting to grow. It looks a little dried up, but it is fresh. She's healthy, and I'm hoping to get some new leaves out of her. She's been pretty stagnant since I got her. Hoyas are a bit slow to get moving. Once they are very kind of grounded and developed in their pot and they have a strong root system, they can really take off. But a lot of these are cuttings that are still kind of developing and acclimating to their medium, so I haven't had a tremendous amount of growth on all of them. However, I think this one is starting to get settled and really start to push out growth, which is exciting. Next up, no. Oh, I just knocked her new growth and now I have sap coming out. Sorry, baby. Aw. That's sad. That's always a risk when I make these little videos. I end up damaging at least one plant. Anyway, next up, I got this plant at the same time, and that is the Hoya Rebecca. She is a very fun Hoya. I've talked about this before, but I love how relaxed the vines are. They are not very rigid, kind of twiny like these. They hang very, very well. So this will make a great hanging basket plant in my opinion. This plant was sent to me actually a bit ago, and she was sent to me because I had mentioned that the Hoya Sunrise is on my wish list, which we just talked about. This one is a very similar plant to the Hoya Sunrise. She's not sun stressed, so you can't really see the similarities. I guess you can a little bit in the leaf shape, but they are kind of similar plants. However, I really, really, really enjoy just how it falls. To be honest with you, it's just a little waterfall of Hoya. She has actually grown quite a bit since I've gotten her, and I'm just kind of enjoying the ride. I have some fresh little leaves here. This has dried up a bit, but it is what it is. Next up, we have a plant that I actually dropped to prepare for this video. This is my Hoya australis. A very satisfying oval leaf shape. Ooh, sorry, I gotta dust these. Sorry babies. Giving me a little bit of Hoya obovata, which we'll talk about later. And this has been a pretty fast grower for me. I got her as a few cuttings. So again, it did take a minute for her to kind of settle into the pot. I'm also getting little new offshoots of growth on some of the vines. You can see this is the vine, and then she started growing from here. I really like how when they come in, they have a little bit of a darker color. It's like a dark red, I guess I would say. And I find it to be beautiful. And there's like a little tinge of it as they start to grow out, which is cool. And similar to her, what I just mentioned, we can talk about the Hoya obovata. This is another example of a plant that I have two of, and I will eventually pot them together once I have a decent amount of pots. Personally, I am not anti putting Hoya in terracotta. I know there are people who feel very strongly about that because I guess the concept is that because these plants are very epiphytic, their roots will stick to the terracotta, kind of grow alongside it, and then if you need to repot it or something like that, you really risk damaging the root system. Personally, I haven't had any issues with that, and also a lot of these are slower growers, so I'm not repotting them all that frequently. However, that being said, most of my Hoya are in nursery pots, just to be safe. But okay, yes, we have the Hoya obovata here, a little bit similar to the australis, but these have more of a saucer shape, if you will, whereas the australis is a little bit more of an oval. There are splashes on the obovata. The new growth also does come in that like very deep burgundy color, which I love. I really admire the leaf size and shape on this one, and the splash on this cutting is absolutely stunning. And oh my god, I have actually, if you look very closely, right here, new growth on the way. Very cool. Next. Oh, let's talk about one of my favorites actually, the Hoya Super Silver. I think it is, technically its full name would be Hoya croniana Super Silver, and still learning. I actually wrote like little notes next to all of my Hoya because I am not new to Hoya as a genus, but new to having so many different varieties, and I really wanted to make sure that I was giving correct information. A lot of these are still in the sphagnum that were sent to me, but Hoya grow really well in moist sphagnum, so I have no problem with letting them kind of develop their root system a little bit more in this medium before I transfer them to a chunky soil. With Hoya, I do like to add a lot of orchid bark to the mix because they are so epiphytic. There's a lot of mediums, honestly, that work well with Hoya, but yeah. This plant has a gorgeous little silvery sheen to it, which is, you know, why it would be called the super silver. It's super silver. When you have plants like this in sphagnum, I highly recommend doing the squish test. This sphagnum appears and sounds dry, but there is still some moisture in there, and when I squeeze this leaf, there isn't a whole lot of give, so she is not thirsty yet, and I don't have to stress about it. I use that tip regardless of what the Hoya is planted in. However, sphagnum is obviously gonna retain a lot less moisture than a proper soil mixture. So I find that to be the easiest way to tell what the plant needs while it's still growing in sphagnum. Love that plant. That's actually one of my favorites. And now let's pivot. Here we have what I am fairly certain is a Hoya crinkle 8. You can tell by the crinkles on the sides of the leaves. I wasn't 100% sure because it gives me a little bit of Hoya Chelsea as well. And I am not, as I said, fully seasoned in like face-to-face Hoya identification. I'm gonna say it's a crinkle 8. However, I will understand if you correct me to say it's a Chelsea. I hope it's a crinkle 8 because they're so sick. You can see the divots here. However, the Chelsea does also have divots. I have some growth coming in here. And again, very content in the sphagnum. Next up, we have the Hoya curtissia. I always want to say curtissia. I know I've said that in my videos before, but when I look at the spelling, I can see that it is curtissia. Let me take her out of her cash po. I absolutely love the splash on these guys, and the leaves are so dainty. They're like little teardrops, and it's been growing very well. These are very like immature, or rather juvenile cuttings. They have taken to the soil very well and has put out a decent amount of growth since I first got her. She gets, I would say, like medium to low light. She is in a window, but it's shaded a lot by my neighboring apartment buildings. So this isn't a plant that gets a ton of light. However, Hoya are very adaptable, very flexible. They will survive in a lot of different lighting environments. It's just kind of about what you want to see from your Hoya. So if you want more variegation, you want sun stress, you want more flowers, then you're gonna need to go in more bright, indirect, maybe even direct. I didn't say that. Light. However, if you're okay with your plant kind of taking it easy and just coasting on by, a little bit of a medium, potentially lower light is also fine. You just kind of have to know your Hoya and set your expectations accordingly. She's one of the first plants, believe it or not, that gets complimented. I think it's because of how cutesy it is. So if you want a plant that you're gonna get a lot of compliments on, that's a good one. Next, let's talk about an OG plant in my collection, and that is the Hoya carnosa compacta. So this is also a Hoya carnosa. However, these are different varieties of that, obviously. This is the crimson princess, and this is the compacta. So if you're new to Hoya and kind of how plant names work, that is kind of the deal. It took a minute to start growing, as with a lot of Hoya, but she's kind of on her way now. I've propagated this plant a few times and she's still vining. I get a lot of top growth on her, which is encouraged from the pruning / propagation. The biggest highlight of this plant, I would say, that a lot of people mention, so you probably hear it, is that these crinkles are perfect little homes for pests. So if you do have this plant, especially if she's new to your home and you haven't like sussed her out yet, I would just spend some time with a Q-tip and your phone light and just really search through this plant, clean her up with some neem and dish soap, and you'll be fine. But I would give her an initial thorough once over because pests do love making themselves cozy in these little like divots. They're kind of like little pest caves. Yeah, another one of my favorite Hoyas. I talk about her a lot, honestly. Next, let's go to another Hoya that I've talked a ton about because I've had her for quite some time. That is the Hoya pubic helix. You guys know I love her. This was one of my first very lush, splashy Hoya, and as with a lot of people, I love splash and I love heavy venation. So this was a very, very satisfying plant for me to get. I have sun stressed her over time. If you look at her like this, you can see that the sun stress was happening over here. This side was facing the window. So I got some leaves that looked like this. And then over here, it was starting to even get some sun stress over here. So the splash turned pink, which is very beautiful. However, it was getting a little bit too sun stress. She was drying out really fast, even got some leaf loss. So I definitely pushed this plant a little bit too over the edge in terms of lighting. I now keep her pulled a few feet back from a window. Hello. And she's very cute. I'm gonna try to breeze through a few because this is getting to be very long. Here we got the Hoya Hushkiliana vergada. This is a great plant, great plant. I feel very lucky to have her. Let's give her a little show. Boom. Next we have the Hoya Bertoniae, working on that one, but this one is cool because it's fuzzy. This is my first fuzzy Hoya. How cool is that? Again, I said this in the original video, but she does give me a little bit of those like succulent bear paw vibes just because of the fuzziness. And I really love that dark burgundy rim around the leaves. I think it's stunning. A very unique Hoya, at least to me. Then we have the Hoya chaperty. This one is known for its long skinny leaves and dramatic tendrils. I love it so much. They're like little beans sprouting off. So this one's a very cool one, especially if you're into these more like oblong, like long skinny leaves. I think this is a great one. This is my favorite one, potentially. It is the Hoya callistophylla. Look at this thing. This, I would say, looping back to what I was saying earlier, is a more dramatic version of the Hoya Jennifer because of how pronounced this variegation, or it's not variegation really, how pronounced the venation is. I just am obsessed with what this plant looks like. This plant also kind of tuned me in to the Hoya meredithii. Found that plant as I was researching this one and was obsessed. I think that one's a little bit harder to come by, and it's also a little bit harder to take care of. I read they need like a very high humidity. That is also true for this Hoya. I want to get her in a cloche or a prop box or something just so that she can really take off and root a little bit better. I probably want to put her in sphagnum for a bit. She's in some chunky soil, and I think she would just do a lot better in high humidity with sphagnum. For now, this is my favorite Hoya, I think, but if I got my grubby little paws on the meredithii, there'd be some competition. Next, we got the Hoya enduences. This one's cool because of the ripples around the edge of the leaf. I think if I hold it like this, you can see it a bit better. This one I think is gonna wow me as it fills out a little bit more. Right now it's contained to just a few little leaf cuttings that are still getting established. I am still obsessed with it. I think it's a very subtly unique Hoya, but once it takes off, I think, and I get like a little full pot of this, I think it's gonna be a star. So that's gonna be very exciting. I'm just kind of nursing a lot of these right now, which is very sweet because once they take off, I'm gonna feel way more connected to them, I suppose. Another plant that was actually on my wish list for a while and I didn't mention to any of you, you guys just kind of sensed it, I guess, was the Hoya macrophylla. And you have that stunning creamy variegation on the edges. You have that pink line on the rim of the plant. You know, just like a little pop of color, whatever. And then you also have the veins not only running vertically, but also horizontally. So you get the full venation show with this leaf. I do see roots in here, so she's getting along nicely and we'll see what happens with her. But for now, it's just one leaf and she's a cutie and I love her and we're rooting for her. This here is the Hoya matild. This I was very excited about because she's another one that I wasn't really expressing was on my wish list, however, has caught my eye over the years for like just how adorable it is. It is a bit similar energy to the curtissia, however, the leaves are obviously slightly bigger and more oval, and yeah, very sweet. Nice little splash going. Yeah, we have some roots happening, which is awesome. This video is a way for me to just kind of like check in on all of these individually a lot easier. All right, and here we have two plants. One of them is a Hoya, one of them is not. The one on the left is the one we're going to be talking about. That is the Hoya linearis. Such a cool plant. I literally am obsessed with how not only like fragile and delicate she is and how grassy she looks, but the fuzziness is what really puts me over the edge. So cool. The other plant in here is the Dischidia rucifolia vergada, and she's doing well too, but she is not a Hoya, so we're not talking about her today. I used to talk a little bit of smack about her because they were very expensive, and don't get me wrong, like super sick plant. I cannot believe that this is like a Hoya, you know what I mean? Like Hoya are so diverse. We go from the obovata to the carnosa compacta to something that looks like literal grass, but I just couldn't bring myself to pay so much money for grass. So I didn't, but then you guys sent them to me and I'm very excited. And now, everyone, we have made it to our last Hoya. To be honest, didn't save her for last intentionally, it just kind of happened, but she is a super sick plant. And that is the Hoya rangasan, or rangasan. Still working on that, but wow. You have the splash of like the pubic helix times 10. You have a stunning like silver to dark green contrast, and on top of that you have that very clear vertical venation, kind of similar to the feeling of the Hoya macrophylla. Such a cool plant. Oh, also I meant to mention with the Hoya macrophylla, apparently I saw a comment which I found interesting. Apparently also goes by latifolia now, and that's due to this like grouping of a bunch of Hoya based on like their leaf shape and venation. I haven't looked into that, but I just wanted to flag it in case any of you wanted to look into it. I'm definitely gonna read about it. I just haven't had a chance yet. So I have a feeling that this will forever be known as the macrophylla. However, I did want to share with you all the latifolia thing. I have a note about it. Completely forgot about it. So also thank you to the subscriber that shared that with me. I don't want to spark some kind of Sansevieria debate here. I'm just sharing what I heard. I have no opinions on it whatsoever yet. Anyway, that is all my Hoya. I tried to talk a little bit fast to kind of get through them. I'm sorry if it was too fast for you, but we got through them all. I'm very excited. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please comment down below your favorite Hoya, either from my collection or of all time. I would love to hear it. I am clearly broadening my horizons and it's been going well so far, knock on wood. Huge thank you to everyone that has sent me a Hoya before. I would not have this gorgeous and diverse of a collection without you, so I really, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate it. I don't take it for granted or lightly, so thank you. Please like this video, hit the notification bell, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!